Now, first things first, like I said, Gym Empire started developing 8 years ago, was meant to be a 6-month life cycle, turned into 8 years. I could easily say life got in the way, but I think a large part of it was I hadn't realized the scope of a game like this. And that brings me on to where we're moving with the studio next. Now, I've described the next game I'm making to my friends and family as almost like a palate cleanser. This term's been like popularized recently with me and my friends when we talk about playing video games. Like, you play that big RPG that takes you like 60 to 100 hours. You put all your effort into it. You finally complete it. You're psyched. You can move on to another game, but you're not ready to move on to something huge again. You want to maybe play like a 1-hour game or maybe a sports game. We've been calling those games palate cleansers. And it's funny because now that I finished Gym Empire, the next game I'm making, which I'm kind of 50%, I say I'm about 50% through the main development of it. I've only been working on it a month. It's like a palate cleanser. And it's such a breath of fresh air. And you know what? The idea for Chronic Spartan Studios was always to make games like this. Glow, the first game I made, that was a 3-month life cycle, and I specifically planned that, and I was so pleased that I'd managed to achieve that. It didn't sell greatly at all, but to have set that goal out and achieved it and shipped the game was really satisfying. Gym Empire was only meant to be 6 months, and I thought this would be the longest game I ever make. Didn't work out that way. The plan for Chronic Spartan Studios was to be able to bang out these like 3-month life cycle games. 1, to get my practice in. 2, to increase my chances of success. And 3, to just be able to scratch that itch and get as many of those ideas out of my head as possible and turn them into experiences. And after having made the mistakes that I made with Gym Empire in terms of how big that game was and the scope of it, especially for a solo dev, it's such a breath of fresh air, and it's so nice to be able to work on a game that I'm banging through progress so quickly. I can see the end of the tunnel already. I still remember having a discussion with my wife in a coffee shop about 3 or 4 years into the development of Gym Empire, and I said to her, I can't even see the end of the tunnel. I don't know where this ends. And that was such a frustrating feeling to have. It's so nice to be on the other side of that now. But, with this new game that I'm working on, I can see the end of that tunnel. And I kind of stumbled across this game idea. My intent was to actually move on to, I won't say a similarly large game to Gym Empire, because I always thought I can't spend that long on every game I make. But it was a game I thought, well, this might take 1 or 2 years. It's quite a story-driven one. It's a story I've been building in my head for the past 15 years. It was originally going to be a comic book I wanted to write. Now it's a video game I want to make. It's like, it is my magnum opus. And listening to a lot of game dev channels recently, and it's like, you don't have to make your magnum opus now. You can wait to make your magnum opus. I mean, I'm paraphrasing Chris Z right now, but as soon as I heard that, I was like, you know what? Yeah, well, I don't need to rush into this. I certainly, especially at this age of my career with a family, I shouldn't be jumping into another huge project that this next game means more to me than Gym Empire would, so I definitely wouldn't want to cut any corners with it. And it's like, I'm gonna literally fall in the same trap. While thinking that, I was watching Bite Me Games, and a channel I've come across quite recently, searching through Game Dev Reddit, and they started talking a lot about incremental games, and their game MMO 98 was upcoming at the time. When I was listening to it, they've had a really good release. I mean, I think it's a really successful release. They've got a really interesting story with their release, and I think they've handled it brilliantly. You should check it out if you've not. I'll put a little link to it up here. But they were talking about incremental idle games, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'd only recently stumbled onto this world of incremental idle games thanks to my kids and watching them playing all these Roblox games that pop up. I'd always known about Cookie Clicker but never delved into it, and I started playing Cookie Clicker, and I was like, this is so addictive, and I can totally understand the appeal of a game like this.
2 minutes later.
Yeah, sorry about that. My little girl just fell off a fence. Dad mode kicked in, and this is part of the reason why Gym Empire took so long. Family life, eh? Where was I? Cookie Clicker. So yeah, I started to really understand and appreciate the appeal of incremental and idle type games. Ironically, I'd people had commented about Gym Empire being like an idle game at times, and I initially took that as an insult. I thought that just saying it's just like a mobile game or something. I mean, this was quite a few years ago, but as I looked into it, it's like, yeah, I get it actually, because that was one of the whole core elements of Gym Empire, was that you've got to start off, training all your clients, and you want to build it up where you can hire staff that can do the training for you, and you sit back and just watch the magic happen. And there's incremental and idle games share so much, I believe, with tycoon games, in the whole, like, it gives you that kind of management feeling, that being able to build something. It doesn't have the customization aspects of tycoon games, but I think if you boil them down to the core elements, they share a lot. And it just felt like a very familiar and very comfortable type of game to go for. I must admit, I mean, as soon as I saw MMO 98, I got absolutely hit by that nostalgia bug. Seeing that, like, Windows 98 UI, I find myself just sometimes reminiscing about the days when I first started getting into computers, like in the late, actually funnily around about 98, to be honest, 97, 98, first started getting into computers, trying to tinker with them to get different games working, and messing about with Windows 95 at the time, and then 98 and XP. I often find myself, because I work with computers a lot, just reminiscing about those days and missing that more simple Windows UI. That when I came across MMO 98, it really sparked that kind of nostalgia in me. And then I came across games like Execute as well, and I was like, something was just calling out to me. I was like, I really want to make a game that feels like this. I really want to be able to spark that kind of nostalgic feeling with a UI. So I started running through all these ideas in my head, and how at the time I thought, like, yeah, I want to do like a Windows 98 style game, but I don't want to just be like copying a style I've just seen. I want to try to do something a little bit different. Started running through all these ideas in my head, and I've got this whole list of like incremental ideas that just came out of nowhere, like in the space of like an hour. And I think over the next week, I just kept on adding ideas and ideas, and I've probably got about like 50 incremental games that I want to make right now. And because they just feel like so achievable, and I can already see the end of them before I've even started in terms of development, I'm like, I want to make them all. But I had to settle on one. And the game idea that I settled on that just felt so right for me, I'm calling it Tube 2K. And what it is basically is, I want the player to feel like they're sat in front of their computer, and it's 2005, and they're about to start building a video sharing platform, basically the way YouTube started. And I want the user to feel like they're on a 2005 machine, a Windows XP machine. So I'm going for like a Windows XP style aesthetic, and I want that desktop feel. I want to get that kind of vibe that you get from Execute in MMO 98. I want to get those feelings, but I want it to be, like I said, an XP game, Windows XP style game, and I want it to be all around building an algorithm that basically controls your video sharing platform. And from that, as you build the algorithm, you get more users, more videos, more views, and with that, more ad revenue. And then it builds. And obviously, like with all great incremental and idle games, I've got prestige mode plans for it, which trigger even more nostalgia vibes with a few things I got planned for that. And the kind of end game aspect of it, I've just got this great idea, which for me is a bit of a social commentary, although it didn't mean to be. It just kind of, this idea came out as I was thinking about the game. Like, what can for me, like with Cookie Clicker, for example, like the intrigue is like, if I keep on making cookies, what's going to happen? What's like the end game? What does it feel like? And it gets a bit crazy in some incremental games. I'm maybe not going for as crazy a vibe as Cookie Clicker, but I'm definitely going for something a little bit out there, and something which inadvertently I think is a bit of a social commentary, like I say, not intended so, but I think it fits quite well. So that's what my next game is going to be, Tube 2K, and it's going to be a Windows XP themed idle. Gotta say it again. It's going to be a Windows XP themed idle clicker. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. That's where the studio's heading. Going to be a lot more videos coming out on this channel now. So just bear with me and join me for the ride.